Question. Sir, you say that in the region of Calicut, within the span of just 200 years, it took a rapid change of about 3 times. So, can we say that in every places did the same thing happen? Like after the emergence of agriculture, the trade started and the cities were being formed, or did the Calicut inspired from any other place uh, from where it took such a rapid spot?
If anybody has a related question, please.
Sir, you said that in the medieval India, the religious factor, one of the fourfold in dominated the rural settlement. So, what basically dominated the rural settlement, and what was the degree of formation of rural settlement in that time of period and in the other part of the world?
What dominated rural settlement?
You said that the fourfold didn't actually dominated the rural settlement. So, what actually constituted its dominance?
You see, I gave that example of Calicut because that's a very good example that you have. And because unlike modernists who can lay their hand onto the archives and any one of you moving on the roads of New Delhi can see itna bada building hai archives ka karke. And so you have records and records all preserved there for the say late 18th se lekar 20th century tak. Ancient what you call historians are not equally blessed. Now it is one of those rare instances where you have a dozen inscriptions from within that settlement called Kalikatti which reflects on that, and that too from within a period of just less than 200 years. And therefore I gave that example. But what was happening in Kalikatti, not necessarily the same thing will happen everywhere, you see. But the larger point that I am trying to basically make, or the argument that I am trying to put across, is that this is what happened in Kalikatti, and then to buttress that I also mentioned that you have instances where what happened to be a park goes on to become a settlement at some point, or something which happened to be a palli goes on to become a grammar at another point, and therefore the larger argument is that the Indian village never remained the same all through. And what you call, and that issue needs some consideration largely because if you look into writings on this whole idea of the Indian village community from the early 19th century, almost till the middle of the 20th century, somehow historiography after historiography, whether they were colonial or whether they were national or so on, it talked about the Indian village community, that men may come and go, but the Indian village community remains the same forever. That is not exactly what you have obtaining in the last 30-40 years, because that villages are also changing. That's the point that basically emerges. And so that is what I was basically trying to harp on, and not that what happened at Kalyakatti in similar fashion that everywhere everything changes. There are changes, fine, but you know the rate of change, the direction of change, they can vary across spaces. And coming to what you are saying, you see, the point I'm trying to basically make is that in India, when people started working on social aspect of society or of a historical time, what they normally did is, भाई कहाँ से डाटा मिलेगा सोसाइटी के बारे में बात करने के लिए? And so people who started looking into society in course of the 50s and 60s, including whom you will say the Marxist historians, they thought धर्मशास्त्र बहुत अच्छा जगह है. इस धर्मशास्त्र में डिफरेंट वर्णों को क्या करना है, नहीं करना है, क्या कर सकते हैं, क्या नहीं कर सकते हैं, ये सब का विवरणी है. तो था ये. And so once you do that, then you fall into the trap of believing that what the Dhamashastras are saying, they are the historical reality. But increasingly, from 1990 and after, historians have found that Dhamashastras do not represent actual historical reality. They are basically normative in character. They are trying to set norms. They are trying to prescribe कि ऐसे होने से बहुत अच्छा होगा, ऐसे होने से जिंदगी ठीक से चलेगा, और ऐसे होने से जिंदगी ठीक से चलेगा तो जरूरी नहीं कि वैसे ही जिंदगी चल रहा था. And so then the question is, how do you then capture what was really happening? Then when you look at the institutional data, they tell you a different story. They tell you a different story. What I'm saying is, I will not get into details. All I will tell you is, if you look at the inscriptions, no inscription ever, whether it is the post-Mauryan context or whether it is the early medieval context, tells you कि समाज इस चतुर्वर्ण के आधार पर चलता था. Look at the inscriptions that you find at Sanchi. You look at the inscriptions on Mathura, at Bharut, Amravati, post-Mauryan. It talks about a whole range of people making donations. They are artisans, they are ironsmiths, they are traders, they are clerks, they are what you call garland makers, a whole range of people. Women making donation. कोई ये नहीं बताता है कि मेरा वर्ण क्या है. They talk about the profession. They talk about the place they come from, not and their name, not the varna or jati. If varna and jati were so important criterion for distinguishing one from the other, अब सोसाइटी में ऐसे कर चलता रहा कि भाई आपकी जात का है, मैं की जात का, उस हिसाब से तालमेल रखेंगे ना रखेंगे, तो वो सब भी व्यक्त वहाँ होता कि वो एकदम है नहीं. Look at the Ashokan inscriptions. Nowhere do you find any reference to varna or jati as categories. वर्ण जाति का मैंने जिक्र ही नहीं है अशोकन इंस्क्रिप्शन. इतना सारा देश भर में बटा हुआ जो है. Look at the early medieval inscription. खाली early medieval inscriptions आप देखेंगे गुप्त काल का बाद, वो कर्नाटक का बात करिए, उड़ीसा का बात करिए, बंगाल का बात करिए, जहाँ का भी बात करिए, वहाँ राजा खाली व्यक्त करता है कि मैं वर्णानुसार अपना रूल कर रहा हूँ, वर्णानुसार ये कर रहा हूँ. लेकिन वर्ण क्या क्या वर्ण कहाँ है इसका कोई जिक्र किसी में नहीं आता है ना. सवाल आप करेंगे तो राजा ऐसे क्यों बोलता है. राजा इसलिए बोलता है कि राजा जो है he is supposed to be seen and perceived by people as conforming to norms. कि राजा जो है वो नॉर्म के हिसाब से चलना जरूरी है. अगर राजा नॉर्म को खंडन कर देगा तो आप और हम जनसाधारण है सब तो विद्रोह कर देंगे. Therefore, the Raja will have to be continuously shown to be representing what is prescribed, what is normative. Therefore, Raja व्यक्त करता है. लेकिन उसके बाद राजा व्यक्त करने के बाद कहीं कोई नहीं आता है कि शूद्र वो कर दिया या ब्राह्मण वो कर दिया या क्षत्रिय वो कर दिया. So that is the larger issue. And therefore, समाज में जो occupations के लोग हैं, जो professions के लोग हैं, उससे गाड़ी चलता है. और जो professions के लोग हैं, जो occupations के लोग हैं, ये चीज आप ये सवाल मुझे कर सकते हैं कि आप जाति का बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, जात पात का नहीं करके आप ऑक्यूपेशन का बात बोल रहे हैं. रीजन इज ये ऑक्यूपेशंस ट्रांसफॉर्म हो जाते हैं आगे जाके जाति में. लेकिन वो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन जो प्रोसेस है वो ज़्यादा क्लियरली रीजन आफ्टर रीजन में आता है, खास करके 12th-16th centuries एंड आफ्टर. इट डज नॉट कम आउट मच बेटर बिफोर. Region after region, if you see, you find some reference to some occupational groups, some professional groups between the 4th and 7th centuries. वो जो some reference में बोल रहा हूँ, या 3-4 वहाँ 3-4 ऐसे आते हैं. You come to the 7th, 10th centuries, उनका संख्या बढ़ता है. 10th century and after संख्या बढ़ता है, but it accelerates immensely roughly between the 12th and the 16th century. अगर सवाल आप करेंगे कि 12th और 16th century के दौरान क्यों accelerate कर जाता है extensively in region after region, the reason is the 12th, 16th centuries are the period which coincide with what you might call the emergence of regions in Indian history. When I say the emergence of regions in Indian history, I am not referring to present-day Bengal or Orissa or present-day Gujarat or so on. What I am referring to is the sub-regions which constitute these regions. क्योंकि कोई भी इसमें उठाइएगा, जैसे बोल गया महाराष्ट्र का बात करेंगे, महाराष्ट्र कम से कम 4 रीजन को लेकर महाराष्ट्र बनता है. कोंकण, देश, मराठवाड़ा और विदर्भ. विदर्भ, मराठवाड़ा, कोंकण और देश है, ये उभर के आ जाते हैं 12वीं शताब्दी के बीच में. आगे जाके मिलके फिर महाराष्ट्र बनाते हैं. ये जो चित्र है, यही चित्र आपका रीजन वाइज मिलेगा. आंध्र का बात करिएगा, वही हाल है. तेलंगाना, कोस्टल आंध्र या वेंगी, एंड देन यू हैव ड्राई एरिया रायलसीमा. तीनों को मिलके वो आंध्र आगे जाके बना था. एंड सो एनी रीजन यू माइट टॉक अबाउट, दिस इज द रियलिटी. एंड देयरफॉर जो रीजन फॉर्मेशन हो रहे हैं, 12th-16th के बीच में हो रहे हैं, जो रीजन फॉर्मेशन हो रहे हैं, उसमें द सोशल स्ट्रक्चर, इकोनॉमिक फाउंडेशन, कल्चरल इंग्रेडिएंट्स सब एक दूसरे को जुड़े हुए रीजन फॉर्मेशन में मदद करते हैं. दैट्स हाउ द होल स्टोरी डेवलप्स. And therefore it's not as if कि जन्मांतर से जाति प्रथा देश में भरमार था, ऐसा नहीं था.
Any other questions? Yes. Good afternoon, sir. I am Rishita Saxena from History Honours First Year. I wanted to ask if you could kindly guide us on how to move academically after graduation for the British Commonwealth Fellowship.
You see, wait, please. See, all I would like to basically say is that the first requirement for a Commonwealth Fellowship is that you are eligible to apply only if you have a first division in MA. And so the first requirement would be that you have to have a first division in MA. And then you are free to apply. And for Commonwealth Fellowship, obviously, you know, normally whosoever applies wants to go to England. And whereas when you're talking of Commonwealth, the Commonwealth has a larger spread. So that you can see for yourself कि भाई मैं इंग्लैंड जाना चाहता हूँ या न्यूजीलैंड जाना चाहता हूँ या और कहीं जाना चाहता हूँ या ऑस्ट्रेलिया जाना चाहता हूँ. Now why I'm saying this is that, you see, if there are 4 fellowships and 40 applicants to go to London, there would be lesser competition to go elsewhere. And so that is something that you will have to find out. So obviously, going to London has its own fascinations, but लेकिन ये आपको करना है. But at the same time, there are other things that you should, what you call, know. You see, now saying this is not a very happy thing, but you know, because I'm talking to you, and I should be more frank with all of you. You see, the number of fellowships, whether it's Commonwealth or other fellowships that are available from the United States and so on, the number of fellowships available are much more if you are working on what you might say early modern and after. That if you are working on areas of 1600 and after, then the possibilities of more number of fellowships being open to you is greater. If you are doing things prior to the early modern, then in terms of quantities, the possibilities are that much more reduced. This is something that you got to what you call keep in mind. Because otherwise, these Commonwealth things they get advertised every year, and normally वो HRD शास्त्री भवन में है, either they hold the interviews there or they have some of the offices in and around your Moti Bagh and its surroundings, so where they hold these interviews. But these are the realities that you got to be what you call aware about.
It's a modern specialization. Modern.
Yeah. Because 1700 and modern India करने से
Any other questions? So here the time comes for the surprise to our 2 gems. Firstly, actually they both are from different fields. Firstly,